Hello and welcome to Dice and Demons. I'm Emma, and in this video I'm going to test out a new color shifting paint that I just got, and I am testing it on one of the new Space Marine models from the Leviathan box that GW kindly sent to me. This one is one of the Infernus Squad, so some sort of a flamethrower guy, which is pretty cool. So ideally for a color shifting paint you start out with a model that's been primed using a black primer, but since I don't have a black primer I just went for a white primer and then painted the whole thing black using the Black Legion contrast paint. And the color shifting paint that I'm using is a paint called Indifferent Curiosity from a line of paints called Love Tone. I love those names. And most of these color shifting paints are supposed to be used through an airbrush, but it says on the webpage that you can use these with an ordinary brush as well. So that's what I'm going for here. I do have an airbrush, but I'm really lousy at airbrushing. So if I can use a brush, I will usually prefer to do so at all times. I gave it in the end 3 coats of this paint just to get a nice even coverage, and I think that worked pretty well. They were actually fairly easy to use and did not leave a lot of weird streaks as I have experienced with the other color shifting paints. Then I decided that even though I really liked the look of the color shifting paint, I thought it needed a little bit extra, so I decided to add some edge highlights using Pulse Wave Pink, which is a fluorescent paint from Huge Miniatures. And if you want fluorescent paints, I'll leave a link in the show notes for that with an affiliate link where you can get 5% off if you want to buy some paints from Huge Miniatures. When I had edge highlight some of the armor panels, I decided I wanted a little bit more decoration on the armor, and I did not have any grand plan or anything. I just thought it would be fun to add a little bit of, I don't know, decoration in the form of swirls and patterns on the armor, just to break off the quite, well, I don't want to say monotonous, because as a color shifting paint it does have like visual interest on its own, but I just wanted to see what it would look like if you added some more decoration using colors that were not color shifting paints, because the color shifting paints do have a certain quality, a certain way of looking, and I just wanted to add something and see what it would look like. At this point, I was just experimenting and having fun, which I think is what makes this hobby so enjoyable and so creative, that you can just start out with one idea and then end up with something completely different. After having added these swirls or the patterns, I wanted to do something a little bit extra, so I added just some dots using a metal sculpting tool, and the dots are with a slightly lighter pink color, and this one is called Cyber Pink, and it's also from Huge Miniatures. At this point, I was starting to feel a little bit hesitant about this paint job. I thought it looked perhaps more strange and overly decorated than it actually looked cool or like pretty or anything. But at the same time, it was like a fun experience for me, because I have tried color shifting paints before, but I've never added something on top of them. They've also always just been there on their own merit, so to speak. So adding something on top of them that breaks with the metallic color shifting look, I thought that was kind of fun. So I decided to paint the whole thing and see what it looked like when I was done. Then, just to neaten it up a little bit, I went back to the Black Legion contrast paint and added some black outlines, so to make sure that each panel was able to be sort of visually separated, because the more busy your paint job looks, the more important, to me at least, it is that you have something that is neat and tidy. So for instance, black lines separating the armor panels. And here you can see the final result. I think that having covered almost the entire armor surfaces using the patterns, it sort of takes a little bit away from the look of the color shifting paints. I don't think it shows up as neatly or as clearly as you might have liked. But on the other hand, it was quite fun, and using that many patterns and decorations with fluorescent paints, I get to have a pretty cool picture, if I say so myself, of the model under UV light, and you can even see his green eyes. I decided to paint his eyes green to just have something that contrasted nicely with all the pink stuff, and I think that's pretty sweet. Again, I'm not quite sure that this was a successful attempt at a cool color scheme. I think perhaps it looks a little bit more confusing than it looks cool. I'm not quite sure. On the other hand, there is something about it that I actually really like. So yeah, this is a color scheme I'm a little bit conflicted about. So I would love to know in the comment section what you guys think. And lastly, but certainly not least, I would like to thank my Patreons, who are the wonderful people who are supporting the channel. So thank you to Thomas Madsen, Gwenna L, Scott Broadway, Andrew Correa, Anthony Paul Castro, TJ Kubiak, Mando Project, Starcon85, Espear, Economicus, and Firelord21. You can of course join these lovely people over on my Patreon, and I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. Also remember, you can follow me as Dice and Demons over on Twitter and Instagram if you want to stay up to date on my painting projects. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!